New to CS2? These are the basic mechanics you need to know. They might seem simple, but mastering them will instantly improve your gameplay. Let's get started. Don't run and gun. Let's start with probably one of the biggest mistakes beginners make, running and shooting at the same time. Counter-Strike is not Call of Duty. You can't just run around a corner while holding mouse once and expect your bullets to go where you're aiming. When you're moving, your weapon becomes inaccurate. So the basic rule is very simple. Stop, then shoot. For example, if you're moving to the right and you see an enemy, don't immediately start shooting while moving. Instead, stop your movement first, then take the shot. And this leads us directly into counter-strafing. Counter-strafing is one of the most important movement mechanics in CS2. Let's say you're holding D and moving to the right. When you want to stop, release D and quickly tap A, the opposite movement key, and you'll stop immediately. But if we don't do this and simply release D, our character will keep sliding and take longer to stop. The goal isn't to hold the opposite key, it's just a quick tap that cancels your movement. This allows you to stop much faster and get accurate shots out. You're moving in one direction, you tap the opposite direction, and suddenly you're ready to shoot. This becomes extremely important when you're peeking. You move out, counter-strafe, and shoot, instead of running out of the corner and spraying bullets. Dead zoning. Now let's talk about dead zoning. This is closely connected to counter-strafing. Dead zoning is basically taking advantage of the moment when your movement speed reaches 0 while you're changing directions. For example, you're moving right, then move to the left. For a very short moment, your velocity reaches 0. That's the moment where you can take an accurate shot, like this. This is one of the more difficult mechanics in the game, and it takes a lot of practice to master. Spray control. Now let's talk about one of the most important mechanical skills in CS2, spray control. Every weapon has a recoil pattern. When you hold down mouse button, your bullets don't simply go straight toward your crosshair. The gun starts moving, so you need to compensate for that movement with your mouse. For example, with the AK-47, the beginning of the spray generally moves upward, so you need to pull your mouse down to compensate. But don't just memorize a giant recoil pattern and think that's enough. The most important thing is learning how the gun actually feels. Look at the pattern, then try controlling it, pull down, watch what happens, then practice short bursts because in a real game you won't always need a 30 bullet spray. Sometimes a short burst of 3 to 5 bullets is much better, so practice bursts, short sprays, and eventually full sprays. The goal is to make your crosshair stay on the enemy while your weapon is trying very hard to disagree with you. Peeking. Let's talk about peeking. Peeking is basically how you expose yourself to an enemy when taking a fight. And there are many different types of peeks. You have things like jiggle peeks, wide swings, crouch peeks, and more. But the important thing to understand right now is that you shouldn't just randomly run around every corner. Before you peek, think about where could the enemy be? What angle are they holding? How much of my body am I going to expose? And most importantly, why am I peeking? Are you trying to get information? Are you trying to take a fight? Are you trying to bait out an AWP shot? Your peek should have a purpose. And if you want to actually learn all of the different types of peeks and when you should use each one, I'm going to make a full video about that. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. Eco round. Now let's talk about something that has nothing to do with aim, money. CS2 is also an economy game. And if you don't understand the economy, you're going to have a very hard time. One of the most important concepts is the eco round. An eco round is when your team decides to spend little or no money because you can't afford a proper buy. For example, let's say your team just lost a round and everyone has around $2,000. You could all buy random weapons and utility, but if you lose again, you're probably going to be broke again. Instead, you can save your money. Maybe you buy nothing, or maybe you buy a cheap pistol. The idea is to save enough money so that you can have a proper buy in the next round. From here, you can see how much money you'll have for the next round in the worst case scenario. And remember, an eco round doesn't mean you have to give the enemy a free round. If you can get a kill and steal a rifle, that's huge. Sometimes you can even win the entire round. But the main objective is to protect your economy and prepare for the next buy. Economic armor. Here's another small economy trick that a lot of new players don't know. Let's say you're playing CT side and you're pretty sure the enemy is going to have a full buy. In this situation, buying armor without a helmet can sometimes be the better choice. Why? Because against rifles like the AK-47, the helmet doesn't protect your head from being one-tapped. An AK-47 will kill you with a headshot even if you have a helmet. So if you're expecting the enemy to have AK, the helmet isn't always giving you much extra value. Instead, you can buy Kevlar only and save the money you would have spent on the helmet. However, this isn't a universal rule. If you expect the enemy to use SMGs, pistols, or other weapons, buying a helmet can be much more valuable. So don't just automatically buy a helmet every round. Think about what the enemy is likely to have. Don't buy all the utility. Another mistake I see beginners make is buying every utility they possibly can. They buy smoke, flash, molotov, and HE. Don't do that. Your utility should have a purpose. Before buying a grenade, ask yourself, am I actually going to use this? For example, if you're playing B and you know you're going to smoke a specific choke point at the start of the round, buy that smoke. If you have a flash that you're going to use for a specific peak, buy the flash. But if you're buying a grenade just because you have $5,000 and you can afford it, you're not necessarily making a good decision. Utility is there to help you win the round. It's not there to make your inventory look pretty. And there's another reason this matters, because sometimes saving a few $100s can be the difference between having a full buy next round or being forced into another weak buy. So buy the utility you actually need. So, if you're a beginner, don't try to learn everything about CS2 at once. Once these basics become automatic, you'll have a much stronger foundation to build on. And in the next video, we're going much deeper into peaking, and I'll show you the different types of peaks, how they work, and when you should actually use them. So subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.